Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. What's that word? Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. My name is Harani Ikuma and together with my partner Nur Shamimi. Today we will present our findings on a topic that many of us has personally experienced, which is online learning versus face-to-face learning. And we will find out which one students actually prefer. Next slide. During the pandemic, I had to switch entirely to online classes. While convenient, I found myself missing the energy of a physical classroom. The spontaneous discussion, the eye contact with lecturers, the sense of truly being present. That feeling made me wonder, do most students feel the same? Today, history seems to be repeating itself. The ongoing crisis in the Middle East has once again pushed Malaysian institutions toward ODL, making this question more urgent than ever. Next slide. Online learning refers to the use of the internet to access learning materials and interact with instructors, as defined by Ali 2004, as cited in Ahmad et al. 2024. Face-to-face learning is the traditional method where content is delivered in person. In Malaysia, UiTM, which has the country's largest university with 34 campuses, which adopted both modes following nearly 3 years of fully online learning during pandemic, using platforms like Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and Google Classroom. However, challenges such as poor internet connectivity, lack of social interaction, and reduced motivation were widely reported. This raises a key question. Which learning mode truly supports better engagement and academic outcomes? Despite the Despite the growing adoption of online learning, the majority of engineering students at UiTM Pulau Pinang significantly prefer traditional face-to-face learning. Across all measured dimensions, preference, advantage, and enjoyment. I will now pass it on to Shamimi, who will walk us through the first chart.
Thank you, Hairani. The pie chart here is sourced from Ahmad Chu and Abdul Razak, 2024. Published in the International Journal of Modern Education, Volume 6, Issues 21. Data was collected from 118 undergraduate engineering students at UiTM Pulau Pinang during the October 2022 to February 2023 semester. The pie chart illustrates the overall proportion of a learning preference. 18 of the students chose face-to-face learning, while only 20% opt for online. Okay, next slide. We move to the analysis of the data. An 18 to 20 split is a very significant margin. Researchers point to the interactive nature of face-to-face learning as the key factor. For example, real-time discussion, immediate feedback, and meaningful peer collaboration create a dynamic environment that students deeply value. Beyond academic, face-to-face learning fosters a sense of community and belonging, which play a significant role in a student motivation and well-being. As for the 20% who prefer online, their reasons are valid too. They appreciate the flexibility, convenience, and access to digital resources, especially for those juggling multiple commitments. I will now pass it back to Hirani, who will present the second chart.
Okay, thank you, Mimi. This bar chart from the same study compares students' response across three separate questions, all revolving around their preference for face-to-face versus online learning. For question 1, which method do you prefer? Question 2, which is more advantageous? Question 3, in which medium are you more lively? Next slide. For question 1, which method do you prefer? 79.7% choose face-to-face, only 20.3% choose online. For question 3, which is more advantageous? 73.7% favored face-to-face versus 26.3% for online. For question 3, in which medium are you more lively? 70.6% choose face-to-face and 25.4% choose online. What is particularly striking is the consistency face-to-face learning leads across all three questions, never dropping below 73%. The highest preference, 79.7%, is in question 1, showing that when simply asked what they prefer, students overwhelmingly choose the physical classroom. Online learning holds a stable minority, confirming a genuine group who benefit from its flexibility. These findings are consistent across both mathematics and statistics course, which further strengthens the reliability of the results. With that, I will pass it back to Shamimi.
To wrap up, both modes carry their own strength. For example, online learning offers flexibility and accessibility, while face-to-face learning delivers something harder to measure but deeply felt. For example, engagement, interaction, and energizing environment. For sure, the data is clear across preference, advantage, and enjoyment. Students consistently choose face-to-face learning. As the crisis continues to push institutions toward ODL, we must not lose sight of what truly works for students. For our recommendation, educational institutions should prioritize face-to-face learning, especially for STEM subjects. When online learning must be used, educators should incorporate interactive tools and real-time discussion. Ultimately, a balanced blended learning approach can draw in on the strength of both modes and would be the most effective and a student-centered solution. On behalf of Arani and myself, thank you for your time and attention today. We hope this has offered meaningful insight into student learning preference and perhaps a reflection of your own experience as well. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I bid to everyone. So today I am Nur Shamia and this is my partner Fayada Nazura. We will be presenting about our topic which is called drug addiction in Terengganu. So first of all, our presentation is coming from a credible sources, National Anti-Drug Agency, where it is a trusted government agency that provide accurate information about drug addiction in Malaysia. This ensures that our content is highly reliable, giving readers confidence to address this important issue. So, drug addiction is a growing problem in Terengganu where it affects many people, especially youth. Drug addiction also can harm a person's health, and not only that, it only can cause a social problem such as crime and family issues. Therefore, it is very important for us to understand this issue so that proper action can be taken to reduce drug abuse in Terengganu. So the purpose of our presentation is to identify the number of drug addicts based on employment status and to identify the number of drug addicts based on the education level. So what is drug addiction? Drug addiction is the psychological and physical inability to stop consuming a chemical, drug, or other substance despite its harmful consequences. So, the effect of drug addiction consists of poor work or academic performance and also crime and social issues. So, therefore, drug addiction is a growing issue that requires a greater awareness, understanding, and effective effort to address it in society. Next. So the next is the chart, where this chart is showing that the number of drug addicts categorized by employment status from 2021 till 2023. So the employment status is categorized by unemployed, which is referred to the blue colored, timer referred to the orange colored, and employed, which refer to the gray colored. So the y-axis represent the number of addict, while the x-axis represent the year we've taken, where it is 2021, 2022, 2023. So as you can see in the chart, the employed category consistently represent the highest number of addict across the 3-year period from 2021 till 2023. While for the unemployed, the population remained relatively stable and significantly lower, where the cases is between 300 and 400 cases annually. And for the part-timer, it showed the similar low figure in 2021 and 2022, while there are only 9 cases in 2023. So overall, this chart showing that individuals with full-time employment constitute the vast majority of recorded addiction cases compared to those who are unemployed or working part-time. Next, I will move to the next chart, and which will present by Fayada.
To our second chart, I will analyze the number of drug addicts by educational level in Terengganu. This data, sourced from the National Anti-Drug Agency as 31 December 2023, provide a clear picture of demographic most affected. Before we look at the figure, it is important to understand our educational grouping. The first one is primary, refer to those who only complete primary school education. While secondary is a combination of PMR, SPM, and STPM holder. And the last one is tertiary, represent a combination of diploma and degree holder. As you can see from the pair bar graph, individuals with secondary education consistently show the highest addiction rate, dominating all other categories every year. This group reached a significant peak at 1,777 individuals in 2023. We also observe that there is a consistent upward trend in addiction cases within both the primary and secondary education level over the 3-year period. Specifically, the primary level cases rose from 238 in 2021 to 326 in 2023. On the other hand, those with tertiary education represent the smallest portion of the data annually. Notably, this is the only group showing the slight decrease, dropping from 18 cases in 2022 to 8 cases in 2023. Overall, when looking at the total landscape, there is a clear upward trend in Terengganu, with the total number of addicts rising from 1,875 in 2021 to 2,161 cases in 2023. To conclude our finding, we have identified 2 critical takeaways regarding the nature of addiction in our society. The large number of employed individuals in our data indicates that having a job and a steady income does not prevent addiction. In fact, it may even contribute to the problem through workplace stress or by providing the financial ability to purchase illegal drugs. Conversely, the declining number among those with tertiary level education suggests that higher education may serve as a protective factor. This is likely due to increased awareness and a better understanding of the several risks associated with drug use. Let's conclude our report on drug addiction trend in Terengganu. Thank you for your time and attention.